As it please the court, my lord. The state is still trying to reconnect to the system. Thank you, Mona. Now, sir, before the adjournment, you mentioned that on that space between arrow pointing 1 and arrow pointing 2, you could also identify 4 striations on the exhibit bullet, not so, on the scene bullet.
Uthe lapha phakathi kwala kubhele khona okukhomba khona umcibisho lokuqala nanokubonakala khona umcibisho lwesibili ubone kukhona izimpawu ezine.
Not so.
That's correct, madam.
Yebo kunjani?
And then you're saying they are also visible on the test bullet, which is on the right, not so.
That's correct.
Bathi yebo uyabona yini ukuthi sikhona uthe uyabona ukuthi sikhona nakule inhlamvu le esebenzisile ukutest wathi
This test bullet, by the way, is the one that you said is the full metal jacket, not so. Yeah, I mean the CMJ, the test bullet, which is on the right.
manje le test bullet la ngakwesukudla uthe yona le uthe uyilolu hlobo lwe CMJ anginjani?
That's correct, madam.
Athi yebo kunjani?
Thank you. Now you have been able, of course, with precision, to identify the 4 striations that are on the scene bullet. Would you also do the same? Identify the 4 striations that are also on the test bullet?
Manje njengoba ubone impawu ezine kule inhlamvu etholakele intambo etholakala endaweni yesigameko ungakwazi yini ukuthi uphinde usikhombise lezo impawu ezine kule inhlamvu benitesta ngayo?
The 4 striations, yes.
My lord, as I explained, they are there, but they're not that clearly visible on the center, towards the center here. But if you go towards the end, there they are. You can see the continuation of those markings there.
Athi hayi lapha nendawo sibonakala kahle kodwa umusiya ngale ngasegcineni ziyabonakala.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was trying to avoid when you say, yeah, here they are, here they are. You know, here they are, it's a very relative term. I said to you, and actually not me, we agreed, and the court also agreed with us that this is science, the art of precision and accuracy. Now we can't say here they are, like we trying to thumbsuck information. Now, because you have been able to, with accuracy, identify the 4 striations that are on the exhibit bullet on the right, on the left. We can't then all of a sudden say here they are on the right. We also need to pinpoint them with precision as well. Do you mind to do that?
Because the witness was pointing them out with the laser. I don't know if perhaps counsel missed that. When he was saying here they are, he was showing on the screen.
Maybe you should get near to the screen.
Yes.
Point
This
them
is
out
the
with your
ruler.
laser if you want to.
I'm not so sure whether you also want to make use of the ruler. Oh, this time you... No, a ruler. Use ruler. Now, as you point them out, say, as you point them out, let's start with number, before you begin. As you point them out, you have said this is number, there are 4. Now, I'm going to request you to say the first one, and you're going to, it doesn't matter whether you start from the bottom or from the top, but there will always be a first one that will also have to match with their own, that needs to pair on the test bullet, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one as well. You may proceed. I just wanted to request you to follow that process.
ngicela ukuthi uma uchaza lapha ungikhombise ukuthi ke lolu phawu lokuqala lifana naluphi uphawu kule ku-test bullet uye kanjani hani noma ungabe uzofuna ukuqala ngenhla noma uqale ngenzansi kodwa hamba-ke uloku nje ukhomba ukuthi lolu luhambisana nalolu phawu lolu luhambisana nalolu phawu uzofika ekugcineni.
But before I go there and point at the ones I said the bullet could be that in the middle it bent a little bit, like, so those marks are not transferred to the whole bullet. So not all of them will be clear, not all of them will be visible that you can point them out. You can see some of them, but not all of them. And as I mentioned now,
I can see some of the marks, not all of them.
on this part, we can't see them. But when it comes here, they start to appear again here. And this is where they start to appear. Not all of them are visible, but you can see them here.
Njengoba sengichazela ukuthi le nhlamvu lena inhlamvu eyayigobile kangangoba-ke iy'mpawu zange zidlulisekele zonke kule nhlamvu le kodwa njengoba usubhekile lapha esithombeni kuyabonakala ukuthi ngasekuqaleni azibonakali kahle kodwa uma kulokuqhubeka ziqala ukubonakala azibonakali zonke zicace kodwa kuyabonakala ukuthi ziyaqala ukubonakala uma siyangale ngasekugcineni kwesithombe.
Thank you, sir. Now, if you say they are visible, if they are visible, then they can be counted, not so. You can count them if they are visible.
Uma ukuthi zibonakala kahle ungakwazi ukuzibhala kunjani?
I'll point to the laser here. There they are, but not all of them are visible as clear as they are here. But there, you can see 2 or 3 of them there, but not as clear as here. So for me to go there and count them, it won't be of any sense.
It won't be what?
Won't be of any use.
It won't be any use.
Azicaci ngokulingene ngale ngasekugcineni kwesithombe.
Now, you say it won't be of any use for you to go to the screen and count them as you did when you showed those marks on the exhibit bullet. This time it won't be of any use. It's fine, sir. You have made your point.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Or should I repeat the whole thing?
If you can, please.
Thank you, sir. I'm saying this time you're saying it won't be of any use for you to go identify and point out those striations which are on the test bullet, as you have done when you went to the screen and pointed out with precision those striations that are on the exhibit bullet. Now this time you're saying it won't be of any use for you to do it. And I'm saying it to you, it's fine, you have made your point.
Ukuthi angeke kusize ngalutho ukuthi uhambe usikhombisa lapha ku-test bullet lezi mpawu lezi njengoba usikhombisile kule nhlamvu lena etholakala endaweni yesigameko anjalo.
Malot, I've pointed them twice. Now I must go count them. As I said, I've pointed them there. It means they are visible. In terms of the same CMS that I've been requested, in CMS, you need only 6 matching striations or 2 sets of 3. There I've pointed out 6 matching striations, of which is the minimum, and they're enough for me to make it positive. There's no need to continue counting those lines out.
Manje lapha ngikhombisile impawu eziyisithupha and ezikuthiwa nje izona ezidingekayo ukuthi zikwazi ukukhombisa ukuthi khona ukufanana. Angazi ukuthi usadinga ukuthi ngiyozibhala ngizibhalelani futhi.
Now I'm not so sure what question are you now answering, sir, because you just muttering. you're going on and on and on, trying to re-emphasize what is not emphasizable, that you have been able to identify 6. Nobody asked how many have you identified. But nonetheless, let's go back to the counting process, which is what actually brought us here. That's the counting process. Now, you have, and we're agreeing with you that those arrows that are marked 1 and 1 on the left and right, that's a striation. In other words, it runs throughout. It's a similarity. There's no argument about that.
Umcisho lokuqala ongapha ngokwesokudla nalo umcisho lokuqala okwesokunqala zikhomba into efanayo njalo.
There's no argument about that.
And
that is your first count. That is your 1, not so.
That is correct, Mama.
But then in terms of a breakage, where you're supposed to go to the next striation, but you realize that there are dissimilarities in terms of the marking of the bullets, and there's a similarity immediately thereafter. What do you do?
Can you please repeat that one?
Thank you, sir. I am saying we have counted 1. Now you need to go to 2. But before you arrive at 2, which is a similarity, there's no argument about that. But there's a dissimilarity between the 2 bullets, between 1 and 2. In other words, they are marking that are on the scene exhibits, which are not on the test bullet. What do you do in terms of counting?
Asithe usudlulile ke kulo luphawu lokuqala olutholile. Ungakafiki ke uphawu lesibili uma uhlangana nezindawo la ubona khona ukuthi kukhona ukwehlukana kwezimpawu ukungafani wenzani uma uhlangana nento enjalo.
My Lord, if I have those markings on my exhibit bullet, what I'll do is I'll look at my test bullets.
Yes.
Do I see them on the same spot that I'm looking at? If they're not there on the same spot, I'll move it towards the front to check if they're there at the front. Then you can see them at the front there. But I wanted a spot where I can see the ones that I could count easily that are crossing each other.
Hayi ngikwenza ukuthi mangibona ukuthi angiyiboni ngiyalibona uphawu ngapha kulenye inhlamvu mangaliboni kulenye ngiyedlula ngiye phambili ngiyobona ukuthi le phambili iyabonakala yini and uma ukuthi ke iyabonakala noma ayibonakali ngidlulela kwenye ke engayikhoma.
Lieutenant Colonel Mangena, I think you need to understand me. I'm saying in an event there's a similarity in terms of the marking on both bullets. That is the test bullet and the scene bullet. Then that is your 1. And there is also another similarity, a clear similarity that is marked 2. That should be your 2. But now in an event where there are these similarities between 1, 2 in terms of the marking of the bullet, how should you conduct your counting? Do you still say it's 1, 2? Or how do you do it?
Muza ngikubala kwakho ukuthi ubala kanjani ngoba sithi asiqale lana ke kule ku number 1 sibona ukuthi hayi uthole izimpawu ezifanayo udlule uye ku number 2 nakhona ke uthole izimpawu ecacile ukuthi ziyafana kodwa ke ungakafiki ku2 usanda kusuka kulolu lokuqala uyabona ukuthi kukhona lapho okunokwehlukana na ziyehluka zifani kusho ukuthi lezi ndawo ezibhekile ziyehluka wenzani uma uthola indawo enjengalezo?
My lord, it will depend. I can continue counting them, or I can continue the ones that are matching on the dividing line that I can see clearly.
Angizoqhubeka nalezi engithi mangibheka ngibona ukuthi ziyafana.
So what you're saying is, irrespective of a breakage in terms of similarity, do you continue to count those that you find to be similar to each other, irrespective of the breakage? You count them in a consecutive way. Is that what you're saying?
Okuchazayo ukuthi uyaqhubeka ubheke ufune lezo ezifanayo nanoma ke uke wabona ukuthi khona indawo la okunokwehluka khona engafani awuvela uzizibe lezo indawo udlulele phambili.
That's correct, my lord. You can continue counting them if they are very clear on both sides.
Yeah, ungaqhubeka phambili uma ukuthi sicacile kuzona zombili inhlamvu.
No, man. Do you understand the example that I'm making, Colonel? I am saying, and please do not try to, if you don't understand, say you don't understand. But again, if this question is uncomfortable for you to answer, just say no. I don't have an answer. But don't try to make us go around the circle for the whole day, because my question is very simple. My question is, in an event of a counting, when you start to count, your first mark, for instance here, on the board, that arrow that is marked 1 on both sides, the arrows that are marked 1, we are saying there's no contestation about it. Those are clear marks. They correspond. Those marks are appearing on both sides of the exhibits. And also on arrow number 2, those sides, those marks are appearing on both exhibits. But now the question is, in an event that in between those marks that are so clearly visible as to not being able to contest them, they are so clearly visible. In between them, there are dissimilarities. In other words, you can't find in one bullet you find this mark, but on the other bullet you don't find those similar marks. What is the methodology of your counting? Are you going to say 1, 2, or you stop and start afresh?
No, you continue counting.
Okay.
Before the witness answers, we just want to rise on the point of courtesy to a witness, my lord, to say Colonel Mangena is an expert and he should be accorded the respect that he deserves. To say that he's taking the court in circles, we think that that is improper. Earlier on, counsel said the witness is muttering. We let it slide, but we think, my lord, as an expert, he must be accorded the respect and dignity that he deserves.
As it is the court, madam. So your answer is you continue counting in respect of the dissimilarities between the two lines.
Ushuthi wena uyaqhubeka ngokubala nanoma ukuthi usuthole ukuthi phakathi kwale zimpawu ezimbili ezicace kahle kukhona la okubonakala khona ukuthi akufani.
In terms of the dissimilarities,
I said despite the dissimilarities, you continue to count. Yes.
Dissimilarities.
Yes.
I don't see dissimilarities there. I see similarities.
I think no nanoma ke kune nendawo la kukhona khona ukwehlukana la engafani khona lezi zimpawu uyaqhubeka ubale mase hayi mina ngiboni indawo la ezehlukene khona ezingafani lezi zimpawu.
The methodology, let's forget about this one. The methodology of consecutive counting between 1 and 2. Close your eye on this one. Between 1 and 2, there are dissimilarities between the bullet, between the markings of the bullet. Between the clear line that is marked 1 and the clear line that is marked 2. In between there are dissimilarities. The methodology of the counting, what do you do?
ufuna ukwazi ukuthi indlela obala ngayo uma usufinyelela lapho othola khona ukuthi kukhona indawo la ukukhona ukwehluka phakathi kophawu olulenhlamvu yokuqala neyesibili ngoba uma usanda kudlula la uthola khona uphawu olubonekalayo olucacile lo number 1 ungakafiki kulolo lesibili olucacile lo number 2 kodwa ke uthola ukuthi kukhona umehluko phakathi kule ndawo le ephakathi kophawu lokuqala nophawu lwesibili ubala kanjani ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi ubala kanjani
I'll continue counting.
cha ngiqhubeka ngibala
Thank you. In a consecutive way, you say it's 1, the similarities, then it's 2, as you say, in a consecutive way.
usho ukuthi ngokulandelana uzovela ubale uthi okokuqala ngibone into efanayo qhubekele kwesibili uthi esibili ngithola into efanayo futhi
Are we referring to where there's no marks at all on the other? Or maybe on the test?
I've been requested to accord you the necessary respect as an expert, sir, but I think I've tried my level best.
No, I want to understand the question before I answer it.
No, I think I've gone through these questions so many times, and we have answered it so many times. Now you want me to come up with something else. I think I've accorded you the necessary respect that I should have done. You see, but lastly, let me repeat again, and this is final, you see, to avoid any form of a prolixity on this aspect, I'm going to do it for the last time, with the permission of the court. I've said, let us close our eye on this one.
But all the questions were asked based on this one. I was answering based on this one. I didn't know about the other one. You said that I must close the eyes and think of other.
hayi mina impendulo yami umbuzo wakho ukuthi sengibuzo wokugcina manje ngithi ke mase sivala amehlo sike sibheke ukuthi ubonani uma ukuthi uthola la kunezimpawu efana nezimpawu ezehlukile asithi yena no mina ngiphendula nje ngalokho okuphambi kwethu ngingaphenduli ngento engiyibona uma ngivala amehlo
Let me repeat again. Now there's an exhibit that is before you. Not this one. There's an exhibit that is before you. Then firstly, and you're working on a particular group, then firstly you are able to identify a clear line of similarity. In other words, this striation, that is this striation that is on the exhibit bullet goes through to the test bullet. There's no contest about it. Then immediately after that clear striation, there are lines or striations that are found on the test bullet, but not, that are found on the scene bullet, but not on the test bullet, or which are found on the test bullet, but not on the scene bullet. And therefore, immediately thereafter, you find again a clear line of similarity between the two bullets. In other words, the striation goes through from the test bullet and the scene bullet. There's no contest about it. Now, I want to know from you, what will be your methodology of counting those striations in terms of the consecutive method of counting striations?
Now, into sense umbukiso la. Asithi ubheke kwenye nje mhlambe inhlamvu. Uthola ukuthi la eqaleni uyabona ukuthi kukhona umugqa obonakalayo uphawu olubonakalayo akunampikiswano ukuthi kuyabonakala licacile akunankinga ngani. Uma usudlula ke lapho ke ebese ke uthola ukuthi kukhona uphawu olutholakalayo enhlamvini evele endaweni yesigameko kodwa alukho kule nhlamvu le okutesta ngayo noma uthola ukuthi kule nhlamvu evele endaweni esigameko alukho lolu phawu kodwa musufika la enhlamvini le testa ngayo lukhona lolu phawu umusudlula futhi lapho uthola ukuthi sekukhona omunye umugqa futhi obonakalayo ocacile kule nhlamvu ethuthwa esigamekweni nale nhlamvu otesta ngayo ngifuna ukubuza ke manje ukuthi usebenzisa yiphi indlela yokubala umubala zonke lezi zinto ohamba uhlangana nazo.
I'll continue counting the matching striations.
Zoqhubeka ngibale izimpawu ezibonakalayo.
Thank you, sir. I'm happy with that answer. Now you were requested by Colonel Kininda, not really Colonel Kininda, by Colonel Bentley, if I'm not mistaken, to go and attend the scene on the 26th of October 2014, not so?
Akunjalo yini ukuthi wawuceliwe uColonel Banks ukuthi awuye endaweni esigameko ngomhla 26 October 2014 ukuthi uyosebenza khona?
Yes, my lord, I was requested by Captain Bentley to attend the scene.
Yebo ngacelwa uCaptain Bentley ukuthi ngiyo endaweni esigameko ngiyosebenza khona.
And then you got accompanied by two of your members from the Forensic Science Laboratory.
Wawuphelezelwa ababili anisebenza nabo esiphoyiseni akunjalo?
That's correct, my lord.
Yebo kunjalo.
Thank you. Now, when you arrive at the scene, as per your testimony, there were people who were busy with their investigation and you did not want to interfere with them, not so?
Nje mufika endaweni esigameko kungafanele ukuthi niphikisane nabantu noma nithikamezane nabantu abathole besebenza endaweni esigameko njalo.
That's correct, my lord. They were busy processing the crime scene when I arrived.
Yebo babebhizi benza umsebenzi wabo ukuhlola indawo esigameko ngesikhathi ngifika.
Thank you. Now, you waited up until they finalized, they were done with whatever that they were doing, and then you also started to get involved with your own investigation at the scene also.
Kushuthi ulinde baze baqeda umsebenzi abebewenza ukuze na uthola ithuba lokuthi wenze olwakho uphenyo lapha endaweni esigameko akunjalo?
That's correct, my lord.
Yebo kunjalo.
Thank you. Now exactly, what did you do at the scene?
Manje kule ndawo esigameko wena wenzani?
My lord, I took pictures of the crime scene inside. I took pictures of the bullet marks that were in the scene. I took the measurements of the bullet marks.
Ngafika ngathatha izithombe zala kokukhona lapho inhlamvu ezasishaye khona ngalelo langa ama bullet mark, and ngase ke ngiyaqala futhi nokuthi la eshaye khona inhlamvu kwakukude kangakanani.
What else, if there is anything that you did?
Khona yini okunye wakwenza mhlawumbe?
Now, I'm talking about the scene.
Ngisho khona endaweni esigameko.
That's all that I did at the scene.
Hayi ikona kuphela engakwenza endaweni esigameko.
Thank you. Now, with that information, before I get to that, and then subsequent to that scene, you also attended the autopsy, not so, that's the post-mortem examination.
Emva kwaloko ke waphinde waya la kwakuhlola khona umzimba kamufa kunjalo?
That's correct, my lord. I attended the post-mortem the next day.
Yes.
Yebo, ngena ngelilandelayo ngaya lapho kwakuhlola khona umzimba kamuva.
Were you still accompanied by your two colleagues?
Wawusaphelezelwa labo sebenza nabo ababili?
That's correct, my lord.
Yebo, babesekhona.
Do you still recall who else, except for the doctor and his assistant, the medical team, from the side of the police, who else was there?
Ngaphandle kadokotela nalo wayemsiza ngisho ukuthi ke ithemba lezempilo ubani umunye wayekhona lapha?
I think Colonel Mhlatlo was there,
Kwakukhona uKolonel Mhlahlo,
and the LCRC guy was also there.
kwakukhona nalo wesenza LCRC.
And I can't recall who else was there.
Angisakhumbuli ke futhi nokuthi ubani omunye wayekhona la.
But were there any other people except Muhlasho, the guy from LCRC, who were there? By the fact that you can't recall.
I can't recall who was there.
Okay.
Angisakhumbuli ukuthi ubani umbuzo ukuthi uyakhumbula ngaphandle kwalabo umhlahlo nalo wase-LCRC uyakhumbula yini ukuthi babekhona yini abanye abantu nanoma ungasakhumbuli ukuthi kwakuwubani?
Thank you. Now, you then embarked on a process of reconstructing the scene to give an explanation of what could have happened. Not so.
Manje ke wasizama ke ukubuyisela ukuthi isigameko senzeka kanjani ukuze uqonde kahle ukuthi kwakwenzekeni ngalelo langa.
That's correct, ma'am.
Yebo kunjani?
Thank you. And the conclusion that you came up with was that at the time of the shooting incident, the deceased was near the kitchen door when he got struck by a bullet, which also hit the kitchen door, ricochet, and it fell on the cupboard. Not so.
Kusho ukuthi ke wena egcineni wafinyelela kulesi sinqumo sokuthi umufi wayeseduze nomnyango wasekitchen uma ke esezoshawa inhlamvu eyadlula yashaya udonga yasi iyabuya izowela la ku carpet kunjalo?
That's correct, ma'am.
Yebo kunjani?
Thank you. That is information that you, if I'm not mistaken, is information that you might have gotten from Captain Bentley, not so.
Mhlambe ke lolu lwazi lolu walithola ku Captain Bell Nhliya kunjani?
No, my lord.
I'm sorry. The fact that the bullet was found on the kitchen cupboard, not that whole statement. But the
Ukuthi
fact
ke
in
inhlamvu
relation to-
yatholakala ku
Yes.
ekhabetheni lasekitchen hayi konke lokho besichaza lokho nje kuphela ukuthi inhlamvu yatholakala ekhabetheni ikona wakuthola ku Captain Ben.
That's correct, because I've asked them where did they find
Yes.
the bullets. They showed me where they found the bullet, ma'am.
Yebo ngoba ngababuza ukuthi bayitholaphi inhlamvu base bayangikhombisa ukuthi le nhlamvu bayitholaphi.
Who specifically showed you?
Ubani wakhombisa?
It was Colonel Mhlatlo and Captain Bentley.
Hayi uKolonel Mhlahlo no Captain Bentley. uKolonel Mhlahlo no Captain Bentley.
Thank you. I can, the testimony of Miss Musa. You say it's Colonel Muhlatlo, ne? Testimony of Colonel Muhlatlo, yes, it's to the effect that when the bullet was found, was allegedly found on the kitchen cupboard, she was also there as well. So,
Colonel Mhlahlo uthi yena
It's just a
wayekhona
snitch
isikhathi
there.
inhlamvu izotholakala lapha ekhabetheni la sekitchen.
now, you then based your conclusion based on your observations and the information that you got from Colonel Bentley and Captain Bentley and Colonel Muhlasho in relation to where the bullet was found, not so?
Can you please repeat?
Oh, I'm saying, subsequent to that too, you then formulated your conclusion in respect of the scene reconstruction based on, amongst others, the information that you got from Colonel Muhlasho is on where the bullet was found.
We should hear Captain Muhlasho no Colonel Muhlasho no Captain Bentley. We should work size ekutheni ubuyiseke isithombe sokuthi kwakwenzekeni ngalelo langa.
Not so?
Anginjalo.
That's correct, my lord, and it made sense to me when I
Yes.
reconstruct the incident for the bullet to end up where they showed me it was found.
Yes.
Kwacaca kumina uma sebengikhombisile ukuthi inhlamvu lena yatholakala laphi ukuthi ngempela ngabe kuwukuthi kwenzekani ngalelo langa.
Thank you. Now, I want us to refer ourselves to the testimony of Mr. Madlala, which he proffered on the 7th of August 2023. By the way, Mr. Madlala was one of the witnesses once in the house. 7th August 2023 on the transcribed record. I'm going to start on page 19. Now I'm going to start. I'm not so sure whether you've got that record, Mr. Ngoba. I'm not so sure whether it can be beamed this way, madam. Just for ease of reference of Mr. Ngoba, to enable him to follow when he's interpreting to Mr. Nduli, Mr. Nove, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Speak, and Mr. Mapisa. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The date is the 7th of August 2023. Now we will be starting with page number 19. Now, page number 19, we're going to start at line number 21. Number 21.
I do not have that document.
Yes. We will not be able to follow when it is being. Unfortunately, I only brought my own copy here. Now, line number 21 from the transcript that I have, there is, yes, down, yes, where it starts with the underlined word, Mr. Baloyi. Now, I'm going to read what is contained in this transcript. It says, Mr. Baloyi, that's now the state. Him speaking now, just a minute. I just want to show you photo 15 of exhibit D. If you can, just use that photo to illustrate your evidence.
Nothi lapha-ke uBaloyi ekhuluma uthi awumengancane ngifuna ukukhombisa isithombe seshumi nesihlanu sesikhombisa sombukiso u-D. Uma ungasebenzisa leso sithombe nje ukuthi uchaze usikhombise usichazele ngobufakazi bakho.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Madlala responds, that's now the witness. He says, He was leaning against the door over there. Then Mr. Baloyi asked, "Who is that now?"
Manje umise Madlala. The writing has gone beyond the page.
They're trying to sabotage you. Let's because then to go back to the page.
No.
Page number 19, just what?
Usethi
Yes, the last
Madlala,
two sentences.
wayenike eminyango laphaya. Manje siyabuza kubale uthi ushubani manje?
Thank you. Now on page 20, Mr. Madlala then responds to the question by Mr. Baloyi. Then he says, the tall one, the second one, who entered the house, he was leaning against the door and Senzo had pinned him against the wall that is depicted in that picture, holding him onto his arm.
Manje siyaphendula kuMadlala uthi lo mude lo wesibili lo wangena endlini wayenike ngasemnyangweni usezokena wayesemcindezele odongeni njengoba kukhombiswa kulesa sithombe embambile ngengalo.
Then Mr. Baloyi says, and in which direction was this person that you describe as accused number 2 facing? In which direction was the deceased facing?
Manje usiyaphendula ubale uthi uyabuza ubale uthi manje ke lo muntu ke lo okumchaza manje wayebheke phi njengoba umsolo wesibili waye manje usho ukuthi wayebheke phi lo muntu omchaza njengomsolo wesibili and futhi ke nokuthi umufi yena wayebheke.
Thank you, Mr. Ngola. Now Mr. Madlala answers Mr. Baloyi. He says, this suspect was faced into the kitchen when Senzo was facing the door at the time that he had pinned him against the wall.
Manje uMadlala siyaphezulu uthi umsolo lona wayebheke ngasekitchen ngesikhathi uSenzo ebheke ngasemnyango ngalesi sikhathi ke emcindezele odongeni.
Now Mr. Baloyi says, you say you also struck a blow. Who did you strike and where did you strike that person?
Siyabuza ubale ukuthi uthe wagaza yini lapho and futhi ke wawushaya bani and futhi wawumshaya phi lo muntu wamshaya.
Then Mr. Madlala says, no, I hit him on the face.
Siyaphendula uMadlala uthi cha ngamshaya ebusweni.
Then the interpreter tries to put on record that kind of a demonstration that was done by Mr. Madlala, and this is how he put it. There is a demonstration as well. The temporal area of the face, I hit him on the face, and there was a clenched fist which is now demonstrated that that person was hit on the temporal area of the face, that very tall one.
Siyachaza ke uTolikile uthi kukhona indlela bebekhombisa ngayo futhi ukuthi wamshaya ngenhla kwesiphongo ebusweni.
Then
Wamshaya ebusweni lapha ngenqindi eyayifumbathiwe futhi ke ekhombisa ukuthi lo muntu washaya lapha nje ngenhla kwesiphongo ebusweni kusho ukuthi lo omude.
Then Mr. Baloyi says, just for record purposes, who is this person?
Siyabuza ke ubaloyi uthi ke akuse sichaze ukuze ukwazi ukuqoqwa ubani lo muntu.
Then Mr. Madlala says, thereafter there was a gunshot that went off. As it went off, the sound of that gun almost deafened my ears because, there was, where we were, it was a reasonable confined space there. So there is not much of a movement in that spot where the gunshot went off. I then ran and got myself into the bedroom.
Usiyaphendula uMadlala uthi emva kwaloko kwaqhuma isibhamu ngesikhathi siqhuma umsindo walesi sibhamu wacishwa ngivala iy'ndlebe ngoba uyabona la engasasikhona kwakuyindawo encane engavulekile so kusho ukuthi ayisikho-ke seyingekho indawo yokuthi umuntu anganyakaza kule ndawo la yokwaqhumela khona isibhamu ngase ngiyabaleka mina ngaya egumbini lokulala.
Now, Mr. Baloyi on page 21 says, just a minute. Now, where did the gun go off?
Manje ubabaleyo siyabuza ukuthi awumancane manje isibhamu saqhuma sikuphi?
Then Mr. Madlala says, I think it went off in the kitchen because after it went off, there was that beating sound or a lasting beating sound of ears. I think he was referring to an echo. That's me now saying echo, yeah. It's not him.
Manje usiyasho uMadlala ukuthi ngicabanga ukuthi wasuka phuma ekhishini ngoba emva kokuthi siqhume kwaba naloku ukukhala lokho okukhala endlebeni usethi-ke ummeli ngicabanga ukuthi ngalapho wayesho ukuthi kwakukhona lokhu ukuthi umsindo uphindaphinde echo.
Now, thank you. On this one, we'll pause it there. And then there is also further testimony from one of the witnesses who was in the house, Mrs. Zandile Kumalo.
Khona ubufakazi walethwa futhi noma imisifazane oyekhona lapho uMrs. Zandile Khumalo.
Won't go through her testimony as I did here, but just to paraphrase what she said, and I'm going to be very accurate. She said,
Ngizofinga-ke ukuthi wathini.
as they were seated in the kitchen,
Bathi besahlele ekhishini
they were accosted by two men.
bavele bangenelwa amadoda amabili.
The first got in, had a firearm in his possession.
Lo oqala wangena ephethe isibhamu esandleni.
When they were still concentrating on the first one, then they then realized that there was also another one who was standing on the passage.
Bathi besabheka oqala-ke babona ukuthi hawu kanti kunowesibili wayeme ephasejini.
A passage that was leading to the sitting room.
Usho ukuthi le passage laliholela egumbini lokuhlala i-sitting room.
The first guy, or the first person, intruder who had a firearm in his possession, then demanded money and cell phone.
So kusho ukuthi lo oqala-ke wayephethe isibhamu wafuna ukuthi bamnike imali nama-cellphone omakhalekhukhwini.
As they were surprised by what is happening, then Longwe stood up.
Besamangele ukuthi kwenzekani uLongwe waphakama.
Whether he hit or pushed the guy who had a firearm, but that is what happened.
Akacaci ukuthi wamshaya noma wamsunduza nje lo muntu wayephethe isibhamu kodwa lokho kwenzeka.
But through that incident, then Longe wasn't able to run out of the house.
Kuthiwa kulo nqushunqushukela uLongwe waseyakwazi ukuthi abaleke aphume endlini.
Now, then thereafter, after that incident, all the occupants in the house who were in the house then stood up and they accosted these two intruders.
Manje-ke bonke-ke ababekhona lapha endlini baphakama-ke besizama ukubamba labantu ababezobahlasela ababili.
Then they pushed them, according to Zandi, to the kitchen and ultimately towards the kitchen door.
Manje-ke ngokuchaza-ke kaZandi usuthi base babaphushela ekhishini and babaqondisa lapha ngasemnyango wasekhishini.
So both suspects were on the area of the kitchen door.
Kushuthi-ke labasolwa ababili babese duze nomnyango wasekhishini.
Thank you. Do you understand this up to this far?
Ngizwisisa-ke konke lokho.
That's correct, my lord. I
Yebo
understand.
ngiyakuzwa.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Madala says, at the time when the shot went off,
Uthe kaMadlala uma saqhuma isibhamu
the deceased was actually pinning the second suspect. The guy did not have a firearm against the door. And he was holding one of his hands up against the door.
kusho ukuthi-ke ufike ngaleso sikhathi wayecindezele omunye walaba emcindezelele ngasemnyango esinye sezandla sakhe sile phezulu emnyango.
Do you understand it up to that far?
Uyazwisisa kufika lapho?
That's correct, my lord.
Thank you.
Thi yebo.
Now, to a larger extent, that is confirmed by by Mrs. Zandile Khumalo, who said that
Lokho ke kuyafakazela uZandi Khumalo owathi
the people in the house accosted the two intruders and they pushed them towards the kitchen door.
abantu abalapha ngaphakathi endlini babamba labahlasela ababili babaphushela ngasemnyango wasekitchen.
And actually, Mr. Madlala is very specific here. He says
Manje ubaba Madlala lana uyabeka ngokucacile uma ethi
the second suspect was actually pinned against the kitchen door by the deceased.
manje ke uthi lana lo wesibili umsola wayecindezelwe ngasemnyango wasekitchen ecindezelwa umufi
When the shot went off.
uma kuzoqhuma isibhamu.
Now, you are saying, and just before I come to that, he's very specific again when he was asked by the state as to
Yacaca futhi mesezobuzwa umshushisi
as to the position, the position of the deceased and the second suspect. I mean, when he was asked to, with precision, give the positions where the second suspect and the deceased were when the shot went off, and he said the deceased was in the greater portion of the kitchen, and the second suspect was on the door as he was pinned by the deceased.
manje ke mesebuzwa ke lana ukuthi achaze ngokucacile ukuthi babe laphi ke laba solo ababili uthi lo munye wayengaphakathi ngasekitchen lo munye wayecindezelwe ngasemnyango wasekitchen.
Now that is very clear. I'm saying now that is very clear.
Manje ke sekucacile lo.
It can be interpreted in a different way.
Ayikho enye indlela ongatoliwa ngayo.
In your conclusion, you are saying the deceased was struck by a bullet when he was on the side of the kitchen door. I mean, when he was on the kitchen door, which is the reason why the bullet actually exited his body. It hit the kitchen door and it ricocheted and it went on to fall on the carpet.
Wena uthi uma ufike waye ngasemnyango wasekitchen ngesikhathi ezoshaya inhlamvu eyadlula kuyena yashaya umnyango wasekitchen yase ibuya ke ingena ngaphakathi.
That is your conclusion in terms of the reconstruction of the scene.
Kusho ukuthi le ndlela ochaza ngayo wena usichaza ukubuyisa ukuthi kwakwenzekani ngalelo la.
Now my question is,
Kuzwami ukuthi
do you then realize that your conclusion is not backed up by the version of the eyewitnesses, version of the testimonial witnesses who were in the house when this incident happened?
uyabona yini
It presupposes that only one shot was fired when the witnesses were clear that more than one shot was fired.
Mr. Madala is very clear, my lord. He said when the first shot went off, the deceased was pinning the second suspect on the door.
So So you,
I-
sorry. I just want to be fair.
Yes, my lord.
Did Mandlala make certain allegations against some of your clients saying, Yagbona, it's you, I know you? Do you remember him saying that?
No, I'm not there, my lord.
You don't remember that?
No, what I'm saying
No,
is
no,
that
wait.
I'm not there. You could have made them, but I'm not there.
Yeah, but you want this witness to discredit me on the basis of that evidence. Is that so? I'm not saying you can't do it. You can do it. If you want to, no problem.
I'm unable to follow the court.
Okay,
my lord.
never mind.
I'm-
Let
I'm-
it pass.
No, my lord, it cannot just pass because I need to follow the court, and I need to understand the court. Or when the court says, do I then have to discredit the version of this witness based on what Mr. Madlala says?
No. Just let it pass.
Because if then that is the case, my lord, then the court basically saying the version that Mr. Madlala proffered, actually the court is basically is giving a credibility finding on.
No, it was put
On
to
Mr.
Madlala.
Madlala,
It was
yes.
put to Madlala that he is lying. Am I right? About the version of what happened there.
Yes, about the identification.
Pardon?
Yes, about
The identification, you
identification.
couldn't have seen who. Are you with me?
Yes.
As long as you have that background, fine, no problem.
Yes, my lord, but I also need to get it very clear that if the court says, do I then proceed to discredit this witness based on the version of Mr. Madlala? So in other words, what I understand the court to mean from where I'm standing is that Mr. Madlala's version is not something that needs to be believed.
I never
That's a
said
credibility finding.
that. I never said that. I say the evidence
Yes,
is,
yes,
it was put by the defense itself.
yes.
Now, I am saying this witness, he wasn't there obviously.
Yes,
And you are saying this is the evidence which contradicts him. I say, fine, you can do it. But it's not like here we're dealing with evidence which has not been discredited or discredited. I haven't even arrived at that stage. I'm just saying that globular evidence it flows. He ran into the bedroom, he came back, he saw this and that and that and that and that. This witness is being discredited on the basis of that. Is that what I want to know? Not that you can't do it, if you think.
my lord, I've read an extract from the record.
Okay, fine.
I've read an extract from the record.
Mr. Mnisi, you can continue.
Yes, my lord, I'm continuing.
Yeah, please.
I've read an extract from the record, and I've referred to this court to the testimony of Mr. Madlala, whose evidence was led by the state.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So now I am saying
Yes.
to this witness, that does he then realize that his finding on his theory of the reconstruction of the scene does not necessarily accord with what one of the witnesses who were in the house told this court? That's all, Your Honor.
This is where our objection comes in, my lord, that counsel is basing this proposition on the assumption that only one shot was fired, when the witness testified that more than one shot was fired. And one cannot therefore say that the witness reconstructed the scene based on the, or criticize his evidence based on the evidence that only one shot was fired.
Yes, Mr. Mnisi, let's continue.
As it please the court, my lords. I'm not so sure whether I need to respond or to continue.
No, do whatever you want to think that you want to do.
I'm going to request for a direction from the court.
No, you're not going to. You can continue because
Thank you, my lord.
Mr. Baloyi says you're basing the assertion on the assumption that only one shot was fired. When he, Mr. Baloyi, says we all know and heard that more than one shot was fired.
As it please the court. Now, I think the state has got a challenge here because stated it has a duty to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Yes. I'm on behalf of the gentlemen that were representing, we're at liberty to come up with assumption with
Yeah, fine.
probabilities.
Yeah.
Yes, but the state has got a very little room on which to maneuver when it comes to circumvent the concept of proof beyond reasonable doubt. my lord. But that is what I'm saying, sir. Mr. Madala's testimony is very clear. When the first shot was fired.
My lord, if we look at the incident, from where the incident started, suspects came with a firearm. One produced the firearm. Then there was a struggle all over in the kitchen.
Yes.
During the struggle, one shot is fired, and there's a break between the first shot and the second shot, whereby Tumelo managed to move away from the kitchen to the bedroom. Within that period, anything could have transpired. The deceased could have changed position. The position will not remain the same as when Tumelo was there. But when the shot was fired, the deceased body, the back, was facing the door, and the front part was facing inside the house. The firearm was in contact with the deceased chest, in a loose contact where the gases that come from the muzzle of the firearm bent the t-shirt and the vest and the skin around the entrance wound. It exited at the back in a downward trajectory, hit the door, and ended up there on the cabinet where it was found.
Ngokufakazi obukhona ke la enkantolo ukuthi kuthiwa ngalesi sikhathi ke uqhuma inhlanzi yokuqala wabaleka uMandlalo wabaleka and kube nesikhashana phakathi kokuqhuma kwesibhamu okokuqala nokuqhuma kwesibhamu okwesibili. Lokho ngingachaza ukuthi ke phela angeke kusho ukuthi bonke ababe lapha endlini bameme ndawonye babenyakaza, and emva kwaloko ke umufi yena kubonakala sengathi umhlane wakhe wawungasemnyango kodwa yena ebheke ngaphakathi endlini, and kuyabonakala ukuthi inhlamvu yangena ngaphambili yayophuma ngemuva kodwa iqonde phansi.
Thank you. Now that is very interesting, sir. You're saying there was a bit of a time lapse between the first shot and the second shot. Where do you get that information from?
Uthi kwaba nesikhashana phakathi kokuqhuma kwesibhamu okokuqala nokuqhuma kwesibhamu okwesibili.
Where do you get that information from?
Thatha lo.
They just read it now that when the shot was fired, Tumelo ran away from it. We just read it now from Tumelo's testimony.
Usanda ukufunda kufakazi baletha uTumelo ukuthi kwaqhuma isibhamu okokuqala.
Is there a portion that I read where it says after the first shot you ran away?
Yes,
Khona
ready.
khona emva kokuqhuma kwesibhamu wabaleka.
You're not listening. You definitely were not listening.
Usho ukuthi awuzange ulalele.
From the portion that I've referred to the court, there's no line that I read where Tumelo says, I then thereafter ran away.
Hayi kuloko ngikufundela inkantolo namhlanje akukho la ekuthe khona emva kokuqhuma kwesibhamu ngabaleka.
The last sentence there,
What does it say, that last sentence?
Umusho wokugcina lapho
Which sentence?
I then ran and got myself into the bedroom.
ngase ngiyabaleka ngingena egumbini lokulala.
It's Mandlala, no?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe just made a mistake about the name. But somebody did run and get into the bedroom.
Excuse me, my lord.
I say, according to the evidence, somebody did run and get into the bedroom. He
Thank
is
you.
saying Tumelo.
Yes.
Who's,
Tumelo is
what did you
Madlala.
say?
Tumelo is Madlala, my lord.
Tumelo.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, whereas somebody who testified in this court said he ran into the bedroom. That's where he found the child or the children of Kelly Kumalo.
Yes.
Yeah, we know the evidence. I mean, he wasn't there when the evidence was being led.
Just a second, my lord. Yes, that's Mr. Madala who says. I ran and got myself into the bedroom.
Ya uMadlala uthi yena ngabaleka ngayongena egumbini lokulala.
Said, did you interview the people who were in the house
Manje ke wena wakhuluma yini nalabantu ababekhona lapha endlini?
with an endeavor to try and reconstruct the scene to find out what exactly happened?
Ukuthi uzama ukuthi ubuyise ukuthi kwakwenzekani lapho endlini.
My lord, when some of them were interviewed, I was there, but it was after I compiled my report, and it was, I think, a year or so after the incident.
Wakhulunywa nabanye babo ngangikhona kodwa usemva mhlambe konyaka sengiqedile ukubhala umbiko wami.
The day on which you went on the 27th, did you interview any witness who were at the scene?
Ngomhla
I mean,
27
those witnesses who were in the house when this incident happened.
manje ngomhla 27 wakhuluma yini nofakazi ababekhona lapha endlini?
No, my lord.
Cha ngizange.
Why not?
Indaba.
My lord, I did the reconstruction and I checked the house. I wanted to see the body first before I can do your reconstruction. I've only examined the house, and after examining the house, the next day I attended the post-mortem. And from there, I reconstructed the incident based on the physical evidence that I had. I didn't take anybody's statement or version of the incident. I only based on evidence that I had from the crime scene.
Mina ngasebenzisa lufazi engakubona lapha endaweni yesigameko. Ngoba ngaqala ngaya endlini ngafika ngabuka, and then from kusuka lapho ngasuka ngaya bheka i-postmortem. So ngasebenzisa ke lokho engakubona ngaleso sikhathi.
So I was interviewing witnesses who were physically at the scene, who were there with their naked eyes, who saw this thing happening. Was it not an imperative thing to do to enable you to reconstruct the scene?
Manje ukuthi ukhulumisane nombuze laba ababekhona lapha endaweni yesigameko ofakazi. Kwangafanele yini ukuthi ukwenze lokho ukuze ukwazi ukubuyisa isithombe sokuthi kwakwenzekeni ngalelo langa?
No, my lord, I prefer the physical evidence on the crime scene. Because witness can tell you something different.
Cha mina ngifuna nje ukubona nje izinto ezibonakalayo lapha endaweni yesigameko ngoba ngeze ukuthi ofakazi bakutshele into ehlukile.
As it pleases the court, I see the court is smiling. I'm not sure whether the court is smiling because it's already lunchtime, it's smiling for something else. But
Now, he's
nonetheless,
smiling at his evidence.
or is smiling at this witness's evidence.
He says he prefers concrete evidence. So I'm thinking about you quoting science. That science is a branch of study
Yes.
that continually searches for truth and matter.
Yes,
And you say it has to be precise,
and accurate.
accurate.
Yes, and consistent.
That's it.
Yes,
Now, I don't know how many versions are in the house because when cross-examination was being placed around the court,
Yes.
and I'm not blaming anybody,
Yes.
and I haven't decided anything.
yes,
I don't know how many versions. The other version was that there was no intruders who got into the house.
yes.
You guys who were seated there, you know who shot
Yes, madam.
the deceased.
Yes.
Nobody got into that house.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
one of the versions. I can come with others also,
Yes, madam.
which I heard in this court.
Yes,
That's why I'm smiling.
they will probably be coming, madam. May we have a lunch break, madam?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then also there's evidence about a bullet, which is what, .99 on the
Point
cupboard.
three.
Point
Which one on the cupboard?
9
9mm bullet.
on the cupboard.
Yeah.
And of course we heard a version by Mr. Ngobezulu that, hey, long and short, Senzu. And she was trying to separate the fight between Kelly and Zandi. And he
May we
shot
have
him
a lunch break,
and
madam?
and he shot him with a .38. And the bullets, I don't know where they are. Lunchtime.